How many calls do your services typically do in a day?
But
Yeah.
probably hundreds of thousands of minutes.
How close are we to getting to the point where we have AI that's indistinguishable from a human?
We're there.
At a high level, what does your company do?
At a high level, we do verticalized AI solutions, mainly specifying in terms of voice AI. So AI that will communicate, run agentic tasks. It's the AI brain behind it that's going to respond, whether in a chat, so like a chatbot on a website, or a voice, so a phone number or some form of vocal communication.
How does the AI know what to do, whether it's to book, to qualify, to upsell?
Training. Every AI is going to have a knowledge base, so it knows exactly what to do. The only time you're going to get an inconsistent conversational AI is if the data it's intaking is misrepresented or inaccurate.
What is a big thing that you believe about AI that most people don't see yet?
Context is everything. I think the more specifically you can use it, the better.
Welcome back to the podcast. Today we have Trevor Schreyer. He is the CEO of Ally Solutions. Welcome to the podcast, Trevor.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Awesome. So at a high level, what does your company do?
At a high level, we do verticalized AI solutions, mainly specifying in terms of voice AI. So AI that will communicate, run agentic tasks, meaning like, okay, it'll take a call, input data, send an email, kind of get that operational piece done.
I saw that you have two products. You have the Ally Voice and the Ally Chat. Could you break those two down?
Yeah, so we've essentially combined them at this rate. Ally Voice, they're the same underlying tech, right? It's the AI brain behind it that's going to respond, whether in a chat, so like a chatbot on a website, or a voice, so a phone number or some form of vocal communication. We've kind of combined them into one at this point, and we kind of have a plethora of different products really oriented towards like healthcare, wellness, medical, that different sphere. But like they're really just different forms of communicating with AI back and forth, whether client facing or business internal facing.
You described that this AI answers every call just like you. What do you mean by that?
Right. So we're going to essentially train the AI based on business data. Let's say people are onboarding and we don't do much of this anymore, kind of the appointment scheduling piece, but let's say there's a lot of companies where they have, an okay rep taking calls, kind of going through the works. We can take AI, train it on that same material, and have that complete the task at just a much higher rate of completion. So instead of okay, sometimes my admin is getting stuff right and wrong, AI is going to be 95% right, 5% wrong. So really diminishing that.
And how'd you go from finance to this AI startup?
Yeah, the second I realized my job could be automated, I was like, you know what? Let me be the one to do it. So I remember I quit my job one morning. My family was pissed because I was doing okay in finance. But I just knew there was something new to take, and that was almost 2 years ago now.
When did this go from an interesting idea to, wow, this could be a business?
There was really so little time in between. When I got started, it was like GPT 3.0 and 3.5 were out. So those are very preliminary models. As I started realizing what I was doing could be automated and kind of connecting the dots, the second I realized I had something, I quit. So probably like a week from me having an idea to figuring it out, I was out of my job and getting ready for a new one.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is broken with how small business handles calls today?
So, well, and we'll blow it out too, because there are inconsistencies when it comes to super small businesses. So like Bob the plumber, Joe the handyman, right? Sometimes they're going to miss calls, they're going to miss revenue. That was initially what we kind of started out with a year and a half, was like, let's go after these small business owners, help them on the phones, etc. We've pivoted from that because we found they weren't getting the traction where they really needed to be taking calls. If they got a voicemail, they'll call back. They have a consistent client base. But C, as a business, you cannot be chasing around Joe the plumber for $500 a month for 6 months, right? You have to either widen the people you're going after or go after a really narrow and vertical spread, which is what we do. So now the small businesses we help are going to be, a medical practice with 1 to 5 offices for some of the smaller clients, automating a lot of their operational work. And then it'll be we have some inbound phone systems, but we really try to focus on specific things because there's more defensibility there.
So is it more inbound or more outbound then?
Outbound right now. So think of it this way, right? There's going to be, out of, let's say there's 1,000 voice AI companies, probably 950 are doing that inbound scheduling assistant. That's not very defensible. But then you look at us and how we've pivoted, and it's we work with medical offices. We're going to get into the product later, but we've built a solution that will call out to insurance for these medical practices, collect CPT codes, pre-auths, claims, and send it back. So taking an internal B2B operation taking out the like, it doesn't matter how good the AI sounds when it's with another business that's a vendor, right? They can't just hang up because they don't like how it sounds or because it's AI. So we've really taken out kind of that aspect of like uncertainty and then made a defensible product where now if people want to copycat us, A, they have to build the product. B, they have to get approval from insurances to be able to speak to them, etc. So there's more defensibility than just going after Bob the plumber like everyone else. So that's the pivot we've made and a long-winded way to answer your question.
So did you have to talk to every single insurance company to get an agreement that you could do this?
Yeah. So on some of them we still are. Like it can take some time, and that's when we take on a new client, we have to say, like, if your insurance isn't approved or for some reason they want to put us through a process, it'll take 1 to 3 months because end of the day, insurance wants to make it as hard as it can be to get what you need from them, right? They don't want to be giving out more money than they need to. But yeah, it's been a process. A lot of them are more tech forward. A lot of them are limited too. So you really have to find workarounds, whether it's like, okay, our AI can handle the whole thing of like calling out, waiting on hold, getting the codes, or our AI will call out, navigate the phone tree, wait on hold. Then when it gets a live human, we're going to get your human on the line at the medical office. So if they don't have insurance approval, we'll probably have to do that route until we can fully automate, but still saving them like 45 minutes on hold.
Okay, so even with these companies that you don't have an agreement with, you can still use it to call and navigate the.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, as soon as it starts talking to a human, that's when it has to pass it
If
off.
we're not approved, right.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things, like, we weren't thinking through that when we were building it. Like, I didn't come from the medical field, so it was a little green to me. So I wasn't thinking like, hey, from the start, we should be contacting insurance. Hindsight 2020, obviously I should have done that. But then we had to be like, okay, the product's fully built, it can do everything. However, we're not approved with insurance yet. So that's when we were like, hey, we can just queue it up to transfer off and make sure they're aligned with that till we get insurances. So it's really about being able to pivot as a business owner, because a lot of AI startups will get into this position where it's like, hey, we hit this random block. Are we going to like just wait it out? What are we going to do? That's when you have to make that pivot.
So how much money are businesses losing due to missed phone calls and missed voicemails?
Depends on the business, right? So let's say, so we can take some of our clients, for example. So we have a IT tech company that we take calls for about 2,500 minutes a month. So A, like they're people who are techies, right? We're on the phone before, so they were getting less work done. So that's one thing. B, they're not salesmen. So when someone calls the AI, it's going to upsell a product, fix their computer for a price, et cetera, et cetera. They weren't doing that. So it's not necessarily that they were like missing upfront money, but the AI can actually scope and probe and find more revenue in conversations. And that's a level of like of tech that hasn't really been there before, where you have an autonomous system that can collect revenue that your people weren't before.
Why is the front desk such a bottleneck?
I think it's just a very high churn industry. Like I said, we still target the front desk more in that outbound format for medical offices now. But I think people who come to the front desk a lot of times, they want to grow, they want to move on. You're going to have to train new people. They're going to be hopping jobs, especially in today's day and age. So at this rate, I just think it's kind of the low hanging fruit to automate.
Okay, yeah. What happens after hours when no one picks up?
Well, so our AI will always answer, right?
Yeah.
So it's like humans are going to be limited to 9 to 5, let's say. Our AI will run 24/7. So that's number one.
Yeah.
In terms of like, if we're talking like based on the product, right? So inbound agents, those things are 24/7. It doesn't have to turn off when people stop being at work. In terms of like our insurance dialer product, where we work with medical and call insurance, it will only call out while insurances are open per state. So it's just going to kind of queue up and keep going. It can do multiple at a time or one at a time, but it won't run when the office isn't running or insurance isn't running. So it's all programmable at the end of the day.
Walk me through what happens when a customer calls and the Ally voice picks up.
Yeah. So, I mean, is there any specific client? You want me to just kind of make one up?
Yeah, give one, make one up.
Okay, sure. So I mean, so we can use the example we used before for a real client, because they're in Colorado too. But essentially, let's say someone calls in, it's going to essentially pick up and say, "Hey, like I'm AI, just speak to me like you would a normal human. What can I help you with?" And like for those client-facing AI voices, you're still going to get 10% of the people being like, "I'm not going to speak to AI." Click, right? They're doing themselves a disservice. Like I said, we focus a lot more now on facing internal service providers, so they cannot do that. But if someone was to call in normal hours, it would just be like speaking to a human. So for the tech company, be like, what issues are you facing today? oh, my Toshiba from 1980 isn't loading back up. They'd be like, all right, we could either send someone out, that'd be $200. They'd ask more questions, right? What's the battery like? Do you want to replace this, that? It's going to try to probe out upsells, then deliver that to the client. So for our client, the computer tech company, the AI is making sales. On the recipient end for the customer of that company, they're getting upsold specifically on what they need, right? It's not like the AI is going to be egregious in any way.
How does the AI know what to do, whether it's to book, to qualify, to upsell?
Good question. Training. Every AI, or at least that we make, is going to have a knowledge base. So it knows exactly what to do. And if it can't do something that it doesn't know to do. So as long as it doesn't have those errors, it's going to maintain a high level of consistency. The only time you're going to get an inconsistent conversational AI is if the data it's intaking is misrepresented or inaccurate. So if it has two answers to one question, it's going to be inconsistent. But if it's very dialed in and knows what to say and when, it's going to be extremely consistent.
How do you ensure quality control? I'm sure that at the beginning, maybe some of the answers are going to be bad and then you improve it over time.
Well, so yeah. So I mean, first, it's a work in progress. Like our products today are likely much better than what we put out 18 months ago, right? But in terms of quality control, QA is really important. When we're making it, it goes through a series of tests. So it's going to be tested by developers, internal leadership, then me for every product. Once I approve a product, it goes to the client. They're going to go through a testing ladder. That usually takes the longest time when you're doing one of those inbound agents. Once that's approved, that's when you put it out. So, and even then, like week one, you're going to have a lot of optimizations and quick feedback when people are using it. Then it kind of diminishes.
What happens if it says something wrong? So what if it says it can do something, but actually you can't, or if it says there's a discount or something?
Yeah, that happens. And sometimes it's like the client will give us something that they wanted to say, then they forget. Then a month later, they're like, why did it say this? And it's like, well, you gave us this. The thing is you can really quickly catch it, audit it, and change it. On top of that, if you know exactly what you don't want it saying, you can build in guardrails. So like already we have no hate speech, no violent behavior. Like we have different things it can't do. But if there are specifics, we could add that in as a rule too.
How does appointment booking work with the calendars?
Yep. So what you're going to do this is through what's called an API, which is essentially an integration to a software. So let's just use like the most commonly known one, Calendly, right? So what you're going to do is have the AI agent, you're going to build a tool in it, an integration that's going to say, hey, you're going to make an API, a connection to this Calendly. You're going to check the schedule, right? Which is going to be like a README file. Then there's going to be like a change file. So, okay, something's open. It's going to book it now. So it's literally acting what we call agentically, as if it had fingers. So it's going to go through and do that and then confirm it. And like, I think a year and a half ago, everyone was like, oh, wow, that's so cool. Nowadays, it's pretty common, right? You can still run into a bottleneck where if someone's using some type of calendar software that doesn't have an integration or API, you just can't do it. But at that rate, you just got to be like a Calendly, like you can figure that stuff out.
Yeah.
It makes it sloppy and opens up for scope creep. You can figure it out.
Yeah. I'm sure you might also have some MCP servers to connect with.
So good question. Yeah. Model context protocols. Nice. We do have them mostly for like when we'll use a model context protocol won't necessarily be for appointment scheduling. Keep in mind, I'm tech savvy, but I'm not a developer.
Yeah.
What we'll build an MCP for is almost when you have a software that's tough to reach with an API endpoint, you kind of build an MCP as a shell to say, hey, you're going to read all this data and make changes on the outer layer. So it's a little limiting, but it's good for instance, we have a client from the farm, super cool, AJ Richards and Brooke Entz, famous athletes. But essentially what happens is they serve as a middleman for farmers and consumers, right? So every farm bought product, meats, etc., will be listed here and the consumer can buy it directly. Our AI is able to go in and say what's available, order it, etc. What we needed to do was a way to read their internal system on what's available and what's not. So that's where we use an MCP of saying, hey, you need to go in, fetch data in real time on what's usable and bring it back to the user.
What does lead scoring look like? How do you score the leads?
For our AI or like internally for Ally?
Yeah, for your AI.
Different companies are going to know this better than us. We cannot come in for our clients and assume we're the experts in their arena, but they're going to have different metrics for, okay, this sentence is showing intent. This isn't. We work with an outbound insurance company right now. So we actually call people outbound on behalf of insurance, qualify them, then if they're qualified, we transfer them over to the right person. So with that, it's very specific. It's like 8 yes, no questions. If they get them all, they're transferred. If not, no. So it can be anywhere from that to totally kind of like in like a more creative realm, but typically they have to be upfront with us because we don't want to do guesswork. That leaves the product to be potentially bad.
So yeah, so it sounds like you have this B2B with the calling, and then you have the B2C where you're calling just regular people.
Yep.
Do you have any challenges with, like, are there restrictions on how you can call the
Oh, yeah.
people? Do they have to be able to opt in before you can even call them?
Great question. So you'll notice the inbound agent is always fine because there's no restrictions, right? So if someone's calling your AI, you're going to be in the clear. If you are cold calling people with AI, you're going to get in some trouble. What we do is the only time we're actually dialing out immediately to leads is for this insurance company, for example. They're actually getting leads in via email. People are opting in. Our AI goes in and calls out immediately, qualifies, and transfers.
Okay.
For when we're dealing like business to business internal, so let's say medical company to insurance, like a business operation, that's always going to kind of go through and be fine.
Yep.
And then like the least success you're going to get, or like, yeah, that's always going to be fine. Of course, you might have to have approval with the insurance. But yeah, cold calling without an opt-in is just a big no-no. Like, dude, it's a 10K fine per call.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool. What does SiteGuard do to help with e-commerce?
SiteGuard?
Yeah.
Or the website navigator?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's essentially a new product that you can talk to a chatbot and just, it will navigate you through different pages. So let's use From the Farm, for example. You can go to their homepage, say, show me all the options you have for organic Wagyu, right? It'll say, here are 3 options. Do you want me to take you to the page? Sure. It's going to pull up that page, say, do you want me to put in an order for you? Sure. Add to cart. It can take all your info. You can put your hands tied behind your back and speak to it, and it will complete the whole checkout. So that hasn't really been like available before, and we were able to incorporate that tech.
11 Labs published a case study about how Ally automated 92% of inbound IT support calls.
Mhm.
Could you go into that?
Absolutely, yeah. And this is the client we've been talking about. They're one of our flagships. That's On-Site Consulting, located right here in Colorado. Great company. But yeah, what we've done is we went in there. The initial goal was just their people are on the phone. Like we said, they're techies. We want them to be able to be fixing stuff, right? So that we're able to take the calls. What we didn't realize was that like the AI was so good, it started figuring out the upsells and just kind of doing that and automating a lot of different levers of the system. So after like a month or two implemented, it was quickly automating just taking a majority of their calls, like gating every one, not needing higher support, and adding revenue.
What types of calls were typically coming in?
So this is like a computer service company. So either business customers or just straight consumers who have pieces of tech that aren't working and need them to be fixed, reordered, maintained, etc.
And what do you still need to have a human to help with in a pipeline like that?
Good question. So like you're always going to get with businesses like that, like people who have been clients for 20 years, they want to speak to the same guy over and over, right? So like AI is going to let them. We're not going to stop someone if they're really insistent. Other than that, like we talked about, you're still going to get those 10% of people who just don't want to talk to AI. Other than that, it's up to the client. So if the client's like, hey, do everything, but don't actually take card information, we'll do that, then it requires a transfer. But it can basically do anything that a person can do at this point in terms of that use case of like answering that type of call, because that's not super complex.
I saw also that it said that you dropped the number of minutes from 1,600 down to 100.
Yep.
So
I don't think it was 1,600 to 100, but we certainly we are more efficient on the phone than the people who are taking calls before, because our AI isn't it's not really one for small talk. It'll maybe like affirm or say something genuine to start, but it's quicker to the point.
Okay. What happens when you replace a customer support team entirely with AI?
Good question. I mean, we haven't really done that yet. Like no one from on-site has been let go because of what we've done. I think potentially in the medical space, there is the opportunity for that to happen. That said, I still don't think it'll fully automate like a front desk admin at an oral surgeon's, right? I think if they have 5, they can trim down to 3. And I think that's just kind of how the world is going. But we are not out there to be fully automating people. We're about giving time back.
How many calls do your services typically do in a day?
There's so many going on, like probably hundreds of thousands of minutes a day. I don't specifically know the calls, but keep in mind, like a lot of this is hold time, right? A lot of this is transfer time. So there's a lot of things that go into it, but
Yeah.
probably hundreds of thousands of minutes.
How does customer satisfaction hold up when you start using AI for these calls?
Good question. I mean, so we actually have a tracker score. We tend to get between like 4.3 to 4.8. And it's just, the AI can ask a survey, or if it's a chat, just kind of leave stars for people to use. But we haven't had bad feedback. There's always going to be people who don't like speaking to robots, is what it is. But for the most part, if there's a good conversation, they rate it well. And that allows us to get quicker feedback loops too.
Are you generally able to get the AI to the point where it can handle 95 or 99% of questions that these customers are asking?
We won't give the client the product after testing if it's not at that point.
Okay.
Like we want it to be basically 100%, only messing up in like super small edge cases that we're going to catch over time.
What did you learn about deploying in a real business versus just giving demos?
Good question. It's definitely trickier. To start, it needs to be more collaborative. I think one of our growing pains has been we used to be really collaborative and we didn't have a tight scope, and the project would turn into a lot of things. Expectations were mismatched. I think like our real strength has been really standardizing that, being like, here's what you're getting, here's an onboarding form, they fill it out. We know what we're doing. I have to coordinate between sales and product and development and revenue ops and all this stuff. So the more systematic and automated we can be, the better. And I think when we were still in our early stages, getting like 1 to 4 clients a month, that was really slowing us down. But the more systematic, the more product you can pump out.
How long does it typically take to onboard these clients?
Good question. Depends on the product. For let's say for the like our best seller right now, which is that insurance dialer, or eligibility verification, whatever we want to call it. Like we can typically get a client onboarded in a couple of days. They might need approval from for a few insurances we don't know yet, but in terms of getting them set up on the platform ready to go, a couple of days. If someone wants a custom product, right, a voice trained to them that can do A, B, C, D, E, that could take 1 to 3 months. Who knows? So we do quote things on a different time frame if they're not standardized, because we still have enterprise stuff we do. But for our typical products, like expect under a week, or for like those inbound, outbound agents, typically expect 0 to 2 months.
So you posted that medical practices waste hours on cold calling insurance and this eligibility and benefits. So what exactly does the workflow look like?
So not necessarily cold calling insurance, but think about anytime you've went into like a doctor's office, right? You're going to come in, they're going to give you a form and a clipboard. They're going to say, fill this out. When you're done, bring it back. A doctor will see you, right?
Yep.
So you fill that out as a patient and hand it back. On the doctor's side, now they have this. They have to find out what you're covered for, what you're not. Let's say you're going to an oral surgeon. You have to get a root canal, right? They have to know, is he covered for anesthesia if we have to put him under? What if this goes wrong? That. So they have to get all those codes before they can even operate. So sometimes they want you to fill out the forms weeks earlier. They're waiting to follow up, etc. What happens is now you're sending in that form. They're uploading it to our system. Our AI sees everything filled in, sees the insurance number, the patient info, calls out to that insurance, grabs the rest of it, and submits it. So now instead of the admin having to do that on the spot, they can just take the next patient.
Yeah. So it seems like a big part of the insurance companies is adding a little bit of friction.
Mm-hmm.
So when you come in with this product, which makes it way easier for your clients to work with the insurance, do you get any pushback from the insurance companies?
Oh yeah, a ton of pushback. I don't want to say I'll just say there is kind of like, it's a laggard, right? These big companies can't move as fast. They have to devote a lot more time, more hoops to jump through. A lot of times they're going to try to tell us like our AI needs to talk to their AI. Then we'll have to back and forth and be like, your AI can't actually give a lot of the things we need. Some will have to get a toll-free number set up, approval with people, et cetera, et cetera. Some will just say no, and you have to keep to like, okay, we'll just get the live rep and transfer. But there is definitely pushback. I think they're becoming less averse as time goes on. But yeah, it has not been easy. And that's why we consider it part of our defensibility.
How do you handle verification, documentation, and accuracy?
Good question. So, and I think like I want to preface by saying like, we're really good at confirming what we're told, right? It's recorded, transcribed, put in a portal, viewable by client, and we get a reference number from the rep. Sometimes the reps do misread info and we'll still record that. The liability's on them because we're getting the reference number, etc. But our AI, like, it knows what to ask. It's going to parse that exact info. It verifies it because it can go through the transcript and then relays it back in the portal. And basically a practice just logs in and they're going to see everything going on. But like, we're going to be as reliable as the rep on the phone, and that's the best we can do.
How do you make sure that you stay HIPAA compliant?
Good question. So like always using like HIPAA compliant systems, continuing with different, like HIPAA's gonna have a ton of things you have to do, but just staying up to grade with the courses and whatnot. And then yeah, really leveraging like HIPAA compliant things. Because if you're even if you're HIPAA compliant, if you're using a software or something that's not following those guidelines, like that's, you can't just do that. So you have to maintain just an all-around compliance in everything you're doing.
What has to happen before a company can trust an AI to use the phone?
Good question. I think it comes down to more tech forward people. Probably like we're talking about adoption, right? Client adoption rate right now for AI. The more tech forward people are going to be leaning into it sooner. The people who are like, hey, we can probably, increase our revenue, cut our burn. So they're going to lean into it more. I think as more people adopt, it's kind of like a follow on effect. But at least for us, we want to focus on the more tech forward people because we also want to continue adding value to that verticalized product, right? Because then we can get more wallet share from who we're already working with.
What do you think is the dark side of AI voice agents, and what are you doing about it?
Interesting. I that's a good question. I think the dark side is the concentration of how many people are in the market. Like we've been around for 18, 19 months. Like probably 80% of the companies I've seen come into the game have come out. Some of them I've seen raise like $4 million and 3 months later, they're like, sorry, we're out of business. So I think the dark side is like the lack of barriers to entry right now. Like almost like anyone can do it. And I think it's really appealing because everyone sees like we'll be your voice AI assistant. And they're like, I can totally do that too. Maybe you can, but you're battling some big fish at this point. I think really sticking vertical specific is like the answer to kind of that dark calling of like, let's follow what everyone else is doing. I think you need to find your own thing and crush it.
Yeah, even expanding outside of the vertical and the voice AI assistant. When you talk about industries like these chat GPT and like any of these wrappers around it that allow you to generate code,
Right.
It seems like some of those companies are making a ton of money or raising a ton of money right now.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think rappers are kind of outdated at this point. I agree. I think like I know you keep referencing GPT, but I think Claude is just levels above everything else right now.
Yep.
Like even right now, I'm able to automate so much of what I do day to day that it's like I think that's going to grow beyond just voice. But like we're just kind of in a world where people are using AI more. AI is getting better and there's a lot of uncertainty. So it's like stick to your guns and do what you got to do.
Cool. What happens if AI misunderstands the caller?
So it's either going to ask for clarification if it's like a gargled noise or I can't hear it, or it might just say something that I think you said. And then like the human would have to be like, I don't know what you're talking about. And it'll, AI loves to backstep. But like,
Yeah.
I also want to make a clear point of like, you have your open AI, open source models like the GPT you probably talk to day. That is very different than interacting with a closed source model that we'll build out for a client, right? Because the open source is going to pull from anything on the web, whatever it can get. Closed source is going to have 1/1,000,000th of that amount of data, right? Closed source is going to be specific to a company. So it's a lot less room for error.
So are you talking about running a closed source model locally? Okay, like something on AWS, or you have your own GPU servers?
Good question. Yeah. So you can go into AWS, Azure, even 11 Labs, and you can run that model in a closed source environment.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So are you talking about then training your own model in order to do this, or
No, we'll leverage usually Claude at this point, like Sonnet and Opus are really strong. And that enables us to not have to dedicate money to R&D on LLMs, but just like leverage them. But no, we'll use the same ones, but we'll say, hey, like you have the brain power of Sonnet, but you only know this in your brain, right? So it's not going to go outside of those bounds.
Yeah. So essentially you'll use a model like Sonnet or Opus, and then you'll give it information about what it needs to know, what it can answer, what it can't answer, any safeguards and guardrails.
A very limited source compared to like the multitude of data out there. Exactly.
Okay, okay, cool, that makes sense. Okay, how do you test an AI agent before it goes live?
We get on the phone and call it. We go back and forth with it. We'll even like be like, hey, like we'll know the questions to ask beforehand, but we could just throw those into GPT and be like, generate 200 edge cases to test it, etc. So we have a QA person who runs the prelims, then we have that internal testing ladder before we pump it back to client.
Does the AI always need to disclose that it's AI?
Best practice if it's asked. If it's AI, it should. Does it have to off the bat? It doesn't have to. That's up to the client. We're not going to tell them what to do, but we'll never break the rules. So, right. Yes, if someone asks if it's AI, it should always identify.
So what edge cases still exist that make the AI voice difficult?
A lot. You know what? Like, there's even some funny ones. So, like, we do multilingual, and sometimes if someone comes in with an accent or something, it's just going to start going with a different language. So, like, there's always these little bugs to work out. But I think in terms of like modalities of where it's at right now, like edge cases are going to be different for every single client we have. You just have to work them out or be upfront about asking before. But like the biggest edge case we get is like, and we constantly still deal with this, like still with insurance, sometimes those reps are going to hang up just because they're having a bad day. Someone walked into the room, who knows, their dog's barking, right? So like we had to program the AI for if your call is completed, you know, without all the info, you're going to have to learn to call back. So like you have to build out based on those edge cases, but it was tough to predict like some of what they would be before knowing. So like having the ability as a company, startup, business owner, whatever you want to call it, to figure it out while you're going is really important.
Do you track if the customers are getting angrier over time, and then after it goes above a certain threshold, you send it to a human?
Kind of not really. I think that the AI will acknowledge when someone's heated and a transfer is required, but it's also up to the client where they're like, hey, people are going to be heated. I don't want it transferring unless it really needs to. Or it's like, hey, if they ask for a person, shoot it on over. So a lot of things we like to put back to the client and not like kind of incur our own rules on.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
You must have like an intake document where you ask, what happens if this, what happens if this?
Yeah. And I mean, we have a few, right? We have so many products and we try to shuffle it all into Ally Voice or chat. But at the end of the day, every company is a little bit different. And I think that's one of the hard parts of being like a conversational AI person is that there's a lot of just things that can go wrong. So you have to really limit of like, how do we keep the scope tight so we deliver, then add in more?
Which part is harder, the voice, the conversation logic, or the integrations?
Good question. So for me, the integrations, because I'm not a developer, anyone, you, me, whoever, my grandma can go into like Claude or GPT, figure out how to build an agent in 11 labs, right? It might not be as good as like my grandma won't make one as good as me, right? She's 99, but she can still do it. So I think like that portion really anyone can undertake. When you start getting into the more back end things, that's where you might need a developer. And we have some really talented ones.
How close are we to getting to the point where we have AI that's indistinguishable from a human?
On the phone?
On the phone.
Oh, we're there. We're there.
Wow, awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. On the enterprise side, how much are some enterprise companies willing to pay for a service like this?
Millions. It's about value add. At that point, you're going to be putting in RFPs. Like I can't talk, we're putting in a big one with a big gym. I really can't talk about it yet, but yeah. millions, right? It's like we're competing with companies like Salesforce and some things where it's like, and you have to like, as a startup owner, it's like, why would someone choose us over Salesforce? And you have to figure that out, make it part of your value add. Piece of it's going to be like, yeah, we'll probably do it a little cheaper than Salesforce, right? Another piece is like, we can also move quicker. We can be a lot more customized. To Salesforce, this client would be 100th on the ladder. If we got this client, they would be all of our priority. You know what I mean? So different things like that. But these humongous enterprise contracts are millions.
Then on the small to medium business side, you seem to have positioned yourself to be more affordable.
Mm-hmm.
And so what is the thought process behind that?
Absolutely. Yeah. Because we don't like, from no one do we want an arm and a leg, but we really do want to be affordable to those smaller businesses. So like our typical monthly package for small businesses are like $4.99 to $9.99 a month. We do sometimes have a build out fee based on like integrations or customization, but we'll never really price that at above 2,500 for a small business.
You talked previously about being the Robin Hood of AI. What do you mean by that?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, sure, we can go with that. I really came out the gate with this goal of bringing like this enterprise grade technology to like, Main Street, just your everyday folk. And I think we still do that. Like I said, we're very focused on just this niche of medical. But we still are bringing tech that they don't have accessible yet. So still kind of Robin Hoodie of AI. But
Yeah.
yeah, I do like that nickname. We
Yeah.
can bring it back.
Cool. What was that, like an older nickname that I was just pulling from a little bit ago?
I mean, I think it was like 6 to 8 months ago, but like I said, we've gone through so many pivots that it's like it doesn't make sense to go after the super small business owner who doesn't have like if you're not getting 500 phone calls a month, you're probably too small to invest in voice AI.
Is unlimited minutes sustainable?
And the biggest reason being like we have to get our minutes through like Twilio. We have to pay per LLM charges. So every time that Sonnet's used, we pay per that. If we put on a client for unlimited minutes and they raise those costs, we will bottom up. So we have to be able to, even if we lock them into a package, like yearly, we're going to take another look. We're never going to take more money than we need. But if those costs go up, just like how you see with gas, right? If the costs go up, the companies have to raise the costs accordingly.
So, what ROI do customers see first when they use this technology?
Good question. The biggest ROI from any technology that we'll implement will immediately be time back. Like the company, the on-site consulting, like they didn't even realize that their owner had put it in, but like 2 weeks in, they're like, "Hey, the phones haven't rang in a hot minute," and then they realized, but they had all this time, were being more productive. So I think like when you focus on different things, people are gonna have the different metrics they want to hit, but consistently across the board, we want to look at how much time are we saving you, right? Because then when you're saving time, you can do more. Time's a very valuable asset, more than $499 a month.
What changed with how you got your customers in the very beginning versus how you get your customers now?
I mean, it started out as this started as just me. We're a 16-person team now, but like it was me doing everything. I definitely had to fight for the first client, the second, the third. I think it's still like getting consistency and traction in PMF. There are still people who are a lot better than me, right? And I'll like Max Greenwald at Wormly, really cool dude. They're pushing like 7-8 million. It took them a few years to really ramp up and get on that. Hey, we're growing 200K a month, 400K, 800K. You have to kind of get there. Right now, we're at a point where I still drive a lot of revenue, but I have 4 SDRs, 2 account executives, and myself on the sales team. So like I am not making cold calls really. Like I still will if I want to, but we have people who call, book meetings, then pass it on. It's just not time effective for me, especially given like sales is probably 10% of what I do. So it's just more systematic and we have more hands on board. But it's not like we've always had the most resources. We didn't even get funding till like 8 months in. So it's always been like a grow sustainably and continue to scale from there. And investors like that when they can see, hey, like you're super lean, you're cash flow positive, this, that, like you want to get to that.
So, does the selling end up coming through mostly demos?
Right now, demos, referrals. So we work closely with medical practices and happy clients, but we get a lot of referrals. I'd say 30% referrals, 30% inbound, and projecting probably 40% inbound because I'm even taking on more salespeople next week. But I think it's like it's a funnel, right? And it's like for us, although we sell so many different products, we try to funnel specifically for one at a time and really get people good at that while still taking on enterprise.
How did that Denver partnership happen?
Which one?
The Denver 7?
ABC 7?
Yeah.
That's a cool story, actually. Well, so first I got invited. They were trying to like sell me marketing, which we used for a little bit, but like they invited me to their studio and they had this little game that like I won. So they kind of remembered my name. Then I was invited to speak at Startup Week. So I spoke there. Then I kind of leveraged that into being like, have me on TV. And they're like, sure. So they had me. But then I actually went to another channel or station and did the same thing. And I was able to get onto a few in the same month. And then I was actually like, I was at a bar downtown and someone came up to me. He's like, weren't you on TV? And I was like, yeah. So I had to get recognized by one person.
Nice. Getting famous now.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far, but it was cool.
Yeah. Cool. What makes Ally different from the competitors?
Lean and mean is like our motto. Like the way we're run, I guarantee no one runs a company like I'm running it. There's a reason for that. But second, I think our approach and pivots, and it comes from like my background as a wrestler, most likely, but like I am quick to pivot, try to get leverage and move on to the next thing. We've done that so many times to fall into the spot where we're at. I think that's kind of where we stand out in our defensibility right now. Makes us different than all the other companies out there.
Cool. Yeah, I know previously you talked about the big difference in how you were doing the selling. What is the difference in how you spend your day to day now?
It's a lot of high level stuff. Like I do like podcasts, speaking events, things like that. I definitely try like I have a very strict schedule. So like I'm up 3:45 a.m., go to the gym, I'm working by then. I'll tend to put my most like high effort things between 5 a.m. to let's say like 11 a.m. After that's more times for meetings, thoughts, getting with investors, clients, etc. But like high effort tasks I put in the morning.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, I used to wake up really early.
Oh
I
yeah.
remember one of my biggest challenges when I was waking up at 3 was sometimes the light would still be in the windows.
Oh, and then
So,
tough to get up out of bed when you're like, it's still nighttime. Yeah.
well, it would be tough to go to bed because there's still light
Right.
kind of coming in. So my brain is thinking it's during the day, but it's actually like I really need to go to bed right now if I want to wake up when I want to
Right.
wake up.
I mean, I've been doing it for so long. Like it's harder for me to like I even woke up at 4 a.m. today or something, and my gym doesn't even open till 6. So it's like, it's harder for me not to do that at this point because I've been doing that for like 20 plus years.
Yeah. I remember one time I was at the gym and it was 3 o'clock in the morning and I was hitting bench press. And
Okay.
of course, at this gym, it was actually on Colfax here. It's a 24-hour gym.
Okay.
And I had the whole gym to myself. And I remember benching and then someone came in. They saw that I was at the bench press and then they looked all angry and then they just
Really?
left.
Just there for the bench?
Yeah, they were there for the bench. And it's like they even came at 3 in the morning and they couldn't get the bench. So
Need to find a gym with 2 benches.
true. Yeah. Do you think that voice AI will eventually become a commodity?
What do you mean?
Where it'll become very cheap and too many, there will be a lot of companies that will be in this and then,
Yeah, I think it's already at that point. Honestly, I think there's still like strides to go, but I think the concentration in the market and the overvaluation of a lot of firms is going to really come down. Like there are just too many players right now, but they beat themselves out. Like it's really almost like a war of attrition at some point.
what does the AI front desk look like in 3 years?
And I think it looks like a front desk, a middle desk, and a back office. It's gonna like even which started like we couldn't have done the insurance thing we're doing now a year ago. Like it had to get there. As things keep getting better, and like my bet would be Claude, like you can keep automating more until it's just at the point where like you can really automate full things.
Which industries adapt first and which industries are going to be most likely to take longer to adapt?
Good question. Insurance is pretty slow from their end. They're gonna have to put up with companies interacting with AI, but they have like the companies with the more hoops to jump through internally will take a while. So I think insurances, finance, like we've tried to work with banks and then like there's red tape, they'll get audited, that takes a while. I know 11 Labs is working with some banks overseas and like they're the big elephant in the room. They're the biggest, so they'll do what they want. But I think those are still gonna be the slowest. I think the fastest adopters doesn't matter the industry, it's the tech forward people. The people day to day using Claude, using GPT for actual work. They're already looking for a solution and they know it makes more sense to find someone like us than for them to try to do it or hire an internal team.
What new jobs show up when AI starts handling these calls?
Like I know in my mind, and I always tell my devs this, like for someone to be able to like bridge that tech and business gap, which even like I'm weaker on the tech side, tech people tend to be weaker on the business side, but you get someone who could fully build like the perfect agent as well as the front end and back end. That's really effective. Project managers also, but like with
Mhm.
technical expertise.
Cool.
But I definitely think you want to be like the more tech oriented nowadays, the better.
Yeah. What does Ally Solutions look like in the next 12 to 24 months?
Scaling, growing, more fundraising, continuing to verticalize. I think like we will always be healthcare, wellness, fitness, medical, kind of along those, but really growing and scaling.
And I'll wrap up with this question. What is a big thing that you believe about AI that most people don't see yet?
context is everything. I think like people tend to use it sparingly. I think the more specifically you can use it, the better. And on top of that, I'll add like going on Claude, getting the desktop app, and using Cowork. Like you can do things that weren't really before possible. Like I can source out leads. It'll create customized drafts in my email and then send them all without me touching a button. So I think that's kind of what,
Awesome.
yeah.
Great. Yeah, this has been a really interesting conversation. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. Been a pleasure.